Hello and welcome to Pint Time with Backpacker Mike, episode 316. Some hidden U.S. history that most tourists miss. So basically, welcome back. Drop a comment below. Let me know where you are watching from today. And today we're going to dive into something different in the U.S. We love the big landmarks here in the U.S. like the Statue of Liberty, the Grand Canyon, Plymouth Rock, which is actually not that big. It's really small. But let's be honest, they're too crowded, expensive, and sometimes you spend more time looking at the back of someone's head than you do the actual history because you're stuck in a line. But what if I told you that some of the most mind-blowing, world-shaping history in the U.S. is sitting quietly in places most tourists drive right past because they don't even know that it's there? We're talking about the oldest city ruins in North America that predate European contact, an island fortress off the east coast of Georgia, and an ancient desert empire with a mystery that rivals Stonehenge. Today I'm breaking down 4 epic hidden history destinations, and I'm giving you exactly what to see, what it costs, and how to do it on a minimalist budget. But first, let me go ahead and tag everyone in this. And we'll put that one out, and then I'm going to send a few messages. So if you tune in, let me know where you're tuning in from. And we will get on with the show here shortly. Just got to tag a few people. All right, let's get into this. So I'm going to wait for a couple people to get on. I'm going to show you guys the beers that I have to try for you today. I have some really cool dark beers to do today. And I have a couple dry Irish stouts actually here to do as well. So we're going to go over there soon. But just in case you join late, we're going to be talking about some hidden history across the United States. I did not bring my laptop this time, so I do not have the videos playing behind me, but we're going to get through this show, and we're going to have a good time. So, all right. Let me get into trying the beers, because I'm not sure. I doubt that Facebook even probably put any notifications out or anything. I'm going to tag Jordan in it. But for some reason, I don't think tags show up. And the other thing that blows my mind is Facebook shows slow connection, but that just blows my mind. Anyway, all right. So like I said before, today is some of the hidden history in the United States that you may not know about that most tourists probably drive right past. Now, when it comes to history here in the United States, and as far as traveling history in the United States, the first and foremost part of the history of the United States is the European history of the United States. Now, there is a lot more history here in America than there is after the Europeans, sort of discovered, or whatever you want to say, the shores of America. There were plenty of civilizations here long before that. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into some of those places that you can see. Some of them were sprawling metropolises here in the Midwest. Also down in Louisiana, there was a very old civilization there that built a huge, basically, city at the same time that the Trojan Wars were going on in Greece. So, all right, let me show you the beers that I have to try for you today. Three Sons Brewing Company. I've had them before. They've been pretty good. This one is called McGorry's Irish Stout. It is a dry Irish stout. And it comes in at, I know I just saw the ABV on there somewhere, 4.8% on the Richter scale. And they are out of Dania Beach, Florida. I love the old horse-drawn wagon there. The next one I have to try for you is Edmunds Oast Brewing Company. This is called the Innkeeper. This is also another Irish dry stout. This one is done by Edmunds Yost. They're out of Charleston, South Carolina. And this one comes in at 4.5% on the Richter scale. But there you go. The Innkeeper by Edmunds Yost Stout out of Charleston, North Carolina. Then I have a couple kind of interesting ones to try for you. This one's by Lupulin Brewing Company, which I've had a bunch of their beers on this show. Comes in at 5.2% on the Richter scale. And this is a Nilla Porter. It's a porter with ground Tahitian vanilla beans and double fold vanilla extract. How about that? That is Lupulin's logo there. And this one comes in, like I said, at 5.25% on the Richter scale. But there you go. And then the last one I have to try for you guys is called a Strawberry Brulee. I don't know exactly how this one's going to hit, but it's a snack size stout conditioned on maple, coffee, and strawberries. I never thought to combine those two. However, they did it, so I'm kind of interested in seeing how it turns out. And this is brewed and packaged by Timber Ales in North Haven, Connecticut. I've never had a Timber Ales before, so I'm pretty excited to give them a try and see how it turns out. I believe it's either Timber or Tinder Ale. The writing is so small, and yeah, it's Timber Ale. Timber Ales, but you can see how small that writing is right there. Anyway. All right, so let's get started with the show. I think I'm actually, since there's nobody on at the moment to pick the first beer, I think I'm actually going to start with the sweeter beers first. So I'm going to start with this Strawberry Brulee because I'm really interested in trying to see what it's all about. I'm not sure what the artwork has anything to do with the stout. I'm not sure, but let's see. Woo! It foamed up right on my nose. Nothing better than getting stout on the nose. Hopefully it's not too old. Might change the complexity some. But again, this is a snack size stout conditioned on maple, coffee, and strawberries. And I do get the maple and the coffee notes. So, all right, let's see what this tastes like. Here we go. Cheers. That actually doesn't taste half bad. It comes in at 6% on the Richter scale. However, the mouthfeel seems like it's like an 8. It's very thick on the body. That maple syrup definitely hits. You get some of that bitter coffee notes in there as well. However, I feel like the strawberry might be lost in this. I'm not really picking up much of the strawberry. It's coming across more to me like a maple coffee stout. So I think maybe the maple and the coffee are sort of overpowering the strawberries a lot. But let's do a hard pour on this and see how it turns out. That's a nice dark beer, but a lot of beer head. Really dark. I feel like it might be a little bit old. I can't see the date on it anywhere. So I feel like it might be a little old, plus how airy the bubbles are. As you can see, it's not very tight. So maybe because of the age of the beer, it kind of lost the strawberries in there through the aging process. Oh, I gotta send a message back. It's tamed itself down some, but you can just see how airy those bubbles are. So let's see how it tastes on the hard pour. The hard pour, even though the size of the bubbles, it does give off a little bit of creaminess. It's still very thick. I feel like the maple and the coffee is really coming through. It would be a one good like dessert beer or whatever to have, after say a nice steak and baked potato or something like that. But it's not too bad. I'll probably give it a 7. It's pretty good, but it is very strong and it's going to have an eclectic taste for most people. But yeah, not too bad. Hi, babes, you're the first one on, and probably be the only one on today. Everybody seems to be doing something today. So anyway, all right, there we have it. Timber Brewing, or Timber Ales out of North Haven, Connecticut. I've actually been in North Haven, Connecticut. 6%. But yeah, I'll give it a 7. It's not too bad. All right, let's move on to the next one that I got to try for you guys, and that is the Nilla Porter by Lupulin Brewing Company. It's a porter with ground Tahitian vanilla beans and double fold vanilla extract. So this should come across real vanilla-y, if that is a word. But let me read this real quick. Porter with ground vanilla beans, double fold vanilla extract. Nilla Porter wraps you up in a comfort with every sip, built on a roasty backbone and kissed with the lush complexity of Tahitian vanilla. It's rich without being heavy, smooth yet full of character, with its velvety body, crisp finish, and just the right touch of indulgence. This porter is an easy to love on a weeknight as it is to savor on a special occasion. Malts, they use Cargill 2-row, flaked oats, Malt Works Munich. I love that this brewery puts this stuff in here. Cargill C40, Simpson's chocolate, crisp pale chocolate, and crisp roasted barley. And the hops they used are Columbus hops. So 5.25%. Let's give this one a try. I'm just going to tip it slightly and give it a little bit of whirl in case there's any sediment in there floating around. All right, now let's roll it back over here and pop it open. It's like I'm getting some chocolate. I thought I would get more of a vanilla smell, but... All right, let's see what it's like. Here we go. Cheers. Yeah, it is a holiday weekend. I almost didn't do the show today, and I wish I didn't. I should have just pushed it to like tomorrow or something. That's nice. You get the roasted notes from the porter, a little bit of smokiness. The vanilla is there, but it's not like overpoweringly strong. yeah, it's a solid beer. You can taste the Columbus hops coming through slightly, but it's not, again, overpowering. So let's do a hard pour on this, see how it turns out. Probably poured a little too much in that one, but as you can see, the bubbles aren't quite as large and not quite as dark as the other one. However, it's still a very dark porter. The other one was a stout. And again, on the nose, I'm not really picking up a whole lot of vanilla. So even though it has a lot of vanilla in it, I feel like the vanilla in there is just taming down the bitter notes or the some of the smoky notes you would get from the porter. Yeah, that's really solid. If you're expecting to get punched in the face with vanilla, don't expect that. However, it's a very nice porter, and I would say if the vanilla does anything, it kind of evens out those kind of dark roasty notes that you would get from a porter. Maybe they catered it more towards people who aren't really into porters or just getting into porters. Like if you've never had a porter before, this might be the one that you might want to try. However, it does still finish a little bit bitter and a little bit hoppy with the hops. Jerry, what's up? I saw y'all up there in Milwaukee, man. You gotta go to Schlitz. I put that in your comment. I can't believe they're closing. Anyway, this one isn't too bad. I'm going to, I'll give this one a 7.5. I'll give this a 7.5. I do like it a little bit better than the other one. All right, now we're going to get into two dry Irish stouts, and then we're going to get on to show some of the hidden history here, right here in the United States. Let's go with this Three Sons Brewing McGorry's Irish Stout. Three Sons is out of Dania Beach, Florida, and this comes in at 4.8% on the Richter scale. Some people really don't like dry stouts, but it's pretty much just like a stout without all the fluff, I guess. With nothing in it to really hide all of the roasty, dry notes, like Tahitian vanilla. And just to give you a little snippet, that we had an ancient capital of America right here in the United States. Right here in the United States in Collinsville, Illinois. And I'm going to get to that one after these two beer reviews. We had a capital of America before America was America, if that makes any sense. All right. Not very much on the nose, but let's see. Here we go. Cheers. Yeah, that's a good dry Irish stout. So the dry Irish stout, you're going to get those smoky notes, you're going to get those roasted barley notes, and it's going to come off a little bit like a coffee note, like the end of a coffee note, like a black coffee note. This one is actually pretty solid. I've had some pretty good dry Irish stouts over the years doing this show. There you go. You can see how dark it is. I don't know, the dry Irish stouts, I guess maybe sometimes come across as like a combo of maybe a stout and a dark ale or something maybe. I don't know, but there you go. Yeah, that's a really good dry Irish stout. I really like this one. A lot of people aren't going to be into the dry Irish stouts at all. You have to be a bit of a stout connoisseur to enjoy one of these, but yeah, McGorry's Irish Stout, not too bad. I'm gonna give this one an 8 on the dry Irish Stout side of things, and then we got one more dry Irish Stout to do, and that's from another brewery that I've had a ton of beers from on this show before. Jordan, hey, did you see my tag, Jordan? Collinsville, where they have the giant ketchup bottle, I believe. Oh, really? Is it? I didn't know that. For Heinz ketchup? Or would that be Hunt's ketchup? No, Heinz ketchup's in Pittsburgh. What ketchup bottle is there? All right, let's get into this because I do have a lot of notes today. I got about 8 pages of notes to go over, but some really cool history here in the United States that a lot of people either don't know or tourists hardly ever see. Some of them are a little difficult to get to, but once you get there, it's an amazing situation. But anyway, let's get into Edmund's Oast, the innkeeper. This one comes in at like 4.5% on the Richter scale, and Edmund's Oast is out of Charleston, South Carolina. South Kakalaki, as they say. It's a giant bottle for a billboard type thing. I think it's a generic brand. Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever seen it. Ah, cool. You saw the tag. Awesome. I did, because whenever I post it, it just goes blank. Like sometimes there's a hyperlink, with your name on it or whatever. But hadn't seen you in a while. Thought I'd tag you. Again, this one doesn't have much of a nose, but let's see how it is as far as a dry Irish stout. That one definitely gives off a different vibe than the other dry Irish stout from Three Brothers. It unfortunately does not tell me what all they put in there, but it is giving some weird vibes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I'll drink it. I'll finish it. However, I don't know. It's just giving off weird vibes, sour vibes. I don't know. Let me clean my palate after the McGorry's. So I could give it a fair shot. Oh, it says Brooks Ketchup. It's a giant water tower. Brooks Ketchup. I've never even heard of them. I'd be interested to see if it's any good. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really coming off as like a true dry Irish stout. It has a little bit of like funky kind of sourness or something on the back half of the palate. You do get some of those like roasted notes, kind of coffee notes on the front side, but then it just finishes kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of the innkeeper, but I will finish it. It's not that bad. I will finish it. However, I'm going to give this one a 5. Not a big fan of it, but let me do a hard pour on it too, just to see if it changes anything. It's got big airy bubbles. Yeah, I don't know if they put hops in it that's giving it that sort of funky flavor or what. But yeah. It's not horrible, so I'm going to finish it. Which I have dumped out some beers on this show before. Oh, and Jordan, since you made it on, here's the emergency beer for the day. That's right. Schlitz Old Malt Liquor, the original malt liquor. Why? Because for those of you who may not know, Schlitz is brewing its last run. And old Schlitz Malt Liquor goes way back. Like 110 years or something like that. I gotta get shirts made that say hashtag emergency beer. All right, let's get into this. I was super excited to do this. However, it took me forever to do these notes. And I was so busy all week, and Kim and I had planned for a wedding on Friday. And then yesterday was the wedding, so I had to postpone the show till today. And so I was behind on getting the notes done. So I was finishing them up actually today. But anyway, super cool information. So let's get into it. Since Jordan talked a little bit about it already, and you grew up not far from there. That's pretty awesome. I've been to Illinois many a time. When I was a regional director for a retail chain that will stay unnamed. I had 3 stores, I think, in Illinois, in and around the Chicago area. So I'm pretty familiar with that area, at least. This is more down towards the St. Louis area, which I had stores in St. Louis as well. I had stores in Chicago, St. Louis, and Detroit. So, but this one was pretty cool. I never knew this story, but this takes the ancient capital of America. This takes us to a place called Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site in Collinsville, Illinois. And Jordan, you may know about that. Yep, Schlitz. So sad to see shits go. Shake up Pint Time fresh. Anyway, most people think of early American history starting with the colonies on the East Coast, but long before the Pilgrims, there was actually a massive sprawling metropolis right here in the Midwest, and about 1050 AD. 1050 AD, literally like 3,000 plus years ago, called the Cahokia. Cahokia was larger than London was at the exact same time. So London was there around the same time, which I believe around that time they might have been under Roman rule, like Roman 1 or 2, maybe Roman 2. But anyway, it was the peak of the Mississippian culture, home to an estimated 20,000 people. Now, you've been to the mound. I want to go see it. Like, is it really cool? Like, is there a lot more there than just a mound? Do they give you an idea of like what took place there and all that stuff? I'd be curious. No one knows exactly. It was the peak of the Mississippian culture, home to an estimated 20,000 people. Then in 1400 AD, the entire city was completely abandoned, and no one knows exactly why. Climate change, warfare, resource depletion. It remains one of America's biggest mysteries so far. What to see there is Monk's Mound. This is the largest prehistoric, which Jordan apparently saw it. It's the largest prehistoric earthwork in North America. It's a massive 100-foot tall terraced earthen pyramid built entirely by hand, basket by basket of dirt. You can climb the stairs to the top and get a stunning view of St. Louis skyline in the distance. The next thing you want to see is called Woodhenge. And Woodhenge is a large circle of timber posts used by ancient inhabitants as the solar calendar, to track the solstices and even the equinoxes. So just like a lot of other ancient cultures over on the other side of the Atlantic did the same thing, and also ones in South America did the same thing. I don't know. But Woodhenge seems like a really cool thing to go see. It was used by ancient inhabitants as a solar calendar. Now let's talk logistics, because this is an absolute steal for the budget travelers. Admission is free. Hey, Susie, baby sister. There's a small museum, but there's not much there. I'd say it's an hour type thing. Oh, okay. Cool. I'd be interested to see the museum. Have they done any like excavating there or anything like that and find like, you know, any sort of artifacts or stone tools or weapons or something? Anyway, the admission is free. However, there is a suggested donation of $7 for adults, but that is entirely optional. Oh, I hate when I suck fluid down my throat and start coughing. Excuse me. Down the wrong pipe, as Daddy used to say. All right, as far as budget lodging, skip the pricey downtown St. Louis hotels and look for basic budget-friendly motels or Airbnbs in Collinsville, Illinois, or Edwardsville, Illinois. You can easily find highly rated private rooms or budget stays for around $65 to $85 a night. So not horrible. Still pricey, but not horrible. However, there is a camping option, which I would love to camp. I would camp at all of these places that have camping available that I'm going to tell you about. If you want to go to ultra budget, look at Horseshoe Lake State Park. It's just 10 minutes down the road, and primitive camping sites run about $8 to $15 a night. That's where I would be at the primitive camping site. Now, this just blows my mind that this city just vanished from history books. If you'd like to visit there like Jordan did, drop it in the comments below. Yeah, I'll go. I want to go. It's not that far. No, I'd go. All right, now let's talk about number 2, and that is the Gilded Age Island ruins. Now, the Gilded Age was basically like the late 1800s to the early 1900s, give or take. I got something on these that just keeps bothering me. Yeah, it's still kind of there, but anyway. So our next hidden gem is in Cumberland Island National Seashore in Georgia. I was actually at this one. I really loved it. Imagine a completely undeveloped barrier island with 18 miles of pristine, isolated beaches, live oak forest dripping with Spanish moss, and it's completely wild with feral horses running free. Some people ask, how did the horses get there? Well, it was the previous inhabitants and also Spanish settlers and armadas. Maybe they're shipwrecked off and the horses swam to the island. But they were brought there. They weren't born there. However, they're still feral, and we're talking many, many generations of horses now. Now, mix that in with haunting, towering stone ruins of a massive Gilded Age mansion built by the Carnegie family in the late 1800s. It feels like stepping into a post-apocalyptic novel, and it kind of does. But almost nobody makes it out there because the only way you can reach it is by boat. Now, that's a little bit of a misnomer there, but you can only reach it by boat. However, there is a public ferry that will take you there that I'll get into in a minute. What to see there is the Dungeness ruins. This was basically a 59-room Scottish castle-style mansion built by Thomas Carnegie. It caught fire, however, in the 1950s and was left to nature. Today, the massive stone skeleton still stands, surrounded by wild horses grazing on the lawns, and it's a huge estate with so much to see. It's not just the estate. You can see the sprawling estate. They even had a pool there that is still there, empty and ruined. They had horse stables there because they did bring horses. They also had caretaker little houses there. It was basically self-sufficient. So you can visit all those little buildings and see all the little bit of a history around there and all of that stuff. Also, the first African Baptist church is there. It's located at the northern end of the island. It's a tiny, quiet, wooden structure built in 1893. Very cool looking church. Obviously, have done some renovating on it. By the island's free black community. It's also famous as the secret location where JFK Jr. got married in 1996 to avoid the paparazzi. And they shut the ferry down so nobody could get out there, and they had the entire island to themselves for the wedding. Pretty cool if you got the money to do that, but I'm sure he was tied in with the Carnegies. Now, the Carnegies don't own it anymore. I believe they sold it to the Georgia Historical Society or something like that, and and they own it. The budget breakdown, because it's a national seashore, developers can't touch it. However, there is one very expensive, which I believe was an existing building at the time, or was built shortly, in the early 1900s, but still there. And there's a lodge there, but it's pretty expensive. I'll get into that in a second. But this means you have to pack smart when you go there. They do have a ferry, as I said. You can catch the pedestrian ferry. You can't take your cars out there. There's no cars, no gas ran anything out there. I believe that some of the park rangers out there have like golf carts, but they're battery ran. So you can catch the ferry out of St. Mary's, Georgia, which is really just right across. This is all just right across the Florida-Georgia line. And a round-trip ticket is around $40 per person. Now, the park entry is if you have a standard national park pass, you can get in for free, or it's $15 a person for entry. So you're looking at what, $55 or something for the total trip. Still not too bad. Now, where to stay? The ultra budget move would be to stay there, because there are no hotels on the island except for one luxury lodge that costs a fortune to stay at. And like I said, I believe it's an old lodge that was built in the 1920s or 30s or something like that, before they said no more development, etc. And it may have even been built by the Carnegies, because they used to host a lot of parties there and things like that back in the day. So the ultimate budget play here is wilderness camping for sure. You can book a site at Sea Camp for about $22 a night. You have to pack in everything that you need and keep your gear light and minimal, because you'll be walking to the site. It's a decent walk. The island isn't massive, so it's not like you're going to be walking 20 miles to get to the campsite, but it is a bit of a haul, and a lot of it is through sand and stuff like that. It's literally right on the beach, in some of the wooded areas there, and they have various options available. Now, there's mainland lodging available if camping isn't your thing. You can grab a classic budget-friendly motel, not a hotel, or room back on the mainland in St. Mary's or nearby Kings Island for around $75 to $95 a night. So at $22 a night camping, I'm camping, period. So imagine waking up in your tent and unzipping your tent to have a wild horse there sniffing around your tent, wondering what you're doing there or whatever, So, pretty cool. I would definitely camp there. Would you camp there? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's head west for this next destination. This one requires a bit of a rugged journey, but it's worth every single mile to get to, and that is the Lost Chokin Empire, or Chalkin Empire. A lot of people didn't even know that this existed, but this destination is located at the Chaco Cultural National Historical Park in northwestern New Mexico. Now, New Mexico has a lot of cool history there, especially with the Pueblos. Everyone knows about Mesa Verde, but Chaco Canyon was the actual center of the ancestral Puebloan world from about 850 to 1250 AD. 850 to 1250 AD. This wasn't just a village, however, it was a massive administrative, economical, and ceremonial hub for all of the Puebloan people. They built massive great houses out of perfectly stacked stones and multiple story complexes with hundreds of rooms in them. The craziest part is the buildings are completely aligned with solar, lunar, and astrological cycles. Everything to do with the stars. The precision of building these was actually terrifying because it sits at the end of a notorious rough 20-mile unpaved dirt road. It gets a tiny fraction of the tourists that visit other, say national parks or Southwest national parks. So I'm sure that they have a sort of bus that will take you down there or whatever. But if you wanted to hike the 20 miles to get there, you could probably do that as well. Now, what to see there? Pueblo Bonito, the crown jewel of Chaco. Its massive D-shaped great house that stood up to 4 stories tall and contained 600 rooms and dozens of kivas, which are underground ceremonial chambers. The night sky. You definitely got to see the night sky there. Chaco is designated an international dark sky park because it's so isolated from city lights. The stargazing here is absolutely legendary, which would be amazing. You can actually see the Milky Way with the naked eye clearly cutting across the native ruins. How cool is that? Budget stays. Park fee is $35 per vehicle, or free if you have an America the Beautiful National Park Pass. So it's always beneficial to get the park passes if you plan on hitting these national parks because it's a lot cheaper deal to do it that way. Now, where to stay? Camping at the Gallo camp around campground. It's right inside the canyon and it's tucked right up against the canyon walls and the petroglyphs. It costs only $22 a night. However, you must reserve well in advance on recreation.gov because the spots are very limited. Now, there are hotels, but if you prefer a hotel or a real bed, the closest town with budget accommodations are Farmington, New Mexico, and Gallup, New Mexico. You can find classic road trip motels and reliable budget chains for about $65 to $85 a night. Not horrible, but just keep in mind that these hotels in these towns are an hour and a half to 2 hour drive to the park from there. So your best bet is to book ahead and just do the camping. Now, my pro tip for this area is pack all your food and plenty of water before you head down that dirt road. And make sure you get a lot of gas before you go down that dirt road. Why? Because there are no gas stations or convenience stores in the canyon. So make sure that you do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to drive like an hour to get, something to eat or drink. Now let's move on to the last one. And if you thought Cahokia in Illinois was wild, wait until you hear about this prehistoric engineering marvel in pioneering Louisiana. Pioneering Louisiana. It's called the Poverty Point World Heritage Site. Nothing worse than being out of gas down a dirt road. I know, right, bro? It kind of gives off that what was that movie with the weird people that lived in the mountains? Oh my God! Not I Spit on Your Grave, but I can't remember that. But that's what it gives vibes of, like going down a dirt road and getting broke down, and these people show up and drag you off and want to make you a meal. What is the name of that movie? That's going to bother me now. Oh, Hills Have Eyes. Hills Have Eyes. That's what kind of vibes it gives off. Hills Have Eyes. People living out in the canyons and nobody knows that they're there. So this is called the Poverty Point World Heritage Site. And this place is so historically significant that UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site, putting it on the same level as the pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge. Yet, almost no regular tourist knows it even exists. Hills have eyeballs. Or Deliverance. Yeah, Deliverance too. Yeah, that would be in the woods, back in the woods in Kentucky or wherever the hell they were, West Virginia or something. I'm gonna make you squeal like a pig, boy. I used to love that movie when I was a kid. Now, between 1700 and 1100 BC, so 600 years, it lasted, but over 3,000 years ago, a massive society of hunter-gatherers built a monumental complex here. What makes it mind-blowing is that historians used to think that hunter-gatherers never built permanent buildings or anything like that, because they were constantly following herds of animals, or as, you know, different fruits and stuff grew in the region, they would, you know, move with that according to the seasons. So it's kind of mind-blowing that hunter-gatherers actually did this. They moved nearly 1 million cubic yards of earth by hand to create a complex of semi-elliptical earthen ridges and towering mounds. Now, what to see here, Mound A, which is called the Bird Mound, is a massive 72-foot tall earthen mound that from above looks exactly like a flying bird. How cool is that? Like, how did they design that without having some sort of high perch to look at as they're doing it? I don't know. But it's estimated that it took a massive workforce less than 90 days to build it. That's basically an insane feat of ancient ancient project management, basically. The ridges, which is another thing to see there, you can walk along the 6 concentric earthen ridges where everyday people lived, traded, manufactured tools from stone, and imported, and the stone was actually imported from miles away. So somehow they figured out how to get these stones from miles away to there. I don't know. So the budget breakdown here is, because it's tucked away in rural Louisiana, your dollar's going to stretch a lot further here. The admission to get in is only $6 a person, $4 for seniors, and kids 6 and under are free. If you want a guided tram tour, it's only about $10. So not too bad. Budget lodging, look for budget hotel chains or local motels in Monroe, Louisiana, or Bastrop, Louisiana, which are about 45 minutes away. Rooms consistently run between $65 to $80 a night. So again, not horrible. However, you have another option, and they have state cabins right down the road from where this is Poverty Point State Park. They have beautiful waterfront cabins. And while it's a little too expensive, or a little bit expensive for the solo traveler, if you're traveling with a couple buddies and you split it, it can be very affordable. Otherwise, premium campsites are about $25 to $35 a night, which that would be me. I would just go either to I would probably go to the campsites really for $25, $30 a night, and it's right down the road. So, and with today's gas prices, driving 45 minutes to get there is probably not worth it. So, think about this. While the Trojan War was being fought in Greece, people in Louisiana were building massive bird-shaped pyramids out of dirt. How does that make you feel about the American history now? Drop an emoji that basically shows your reaction to that. Now, what I want to do is recap this by just saying this. This episode gives you a far different perspective when it comes to American history versus European history in America. It's as old as most civilizations in Europe, but our actual history was whitewashed for the European one. What are your thoughts on that? Because the more and more I learn about history in America, we have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But for some reason, we have been taught and put in a box to believe that our history is young compared to the rest of the world, because everybody wants to talk about European history here. But when you talk about Native American history here, like why has Mexico and South America kept their Incan history and their Aztec history alive so well, but yet we haven't kept Native American history as alive? And I don't mean just modern Native American history from the time the Europeans showed up, but I mean prior to that. Like these amazing societies that were around in, BC and short AD. So it's very interesting to see that we have a lot more history here. We have as much history here as the rest of the world has history, for sure. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, we don't really have... Our history here on Earth from the time first humanoids showed up around 7 million years ago that we found a skeleton of, a skull fragment of, what was it like in the gaps in between? Written history didn't really come about, until, mid BC, basically. But why has it been so difficult to find other civilizations that have existed for hundreds of thousands of years? So it's just really interesting to me. And I feel like at some point in time in the future, before our sun explodes, that our existence as well will be looked back on in history, and how much of that existence will they find? Especially with so much of our existence now going online, on our phones and digital pictures and all of that stuff, right? So if power grids go out and there's no signals and satellites aren't being communicated with, where does our history go from here? Are they just going to find written history from, the mid to late 1900s, which I hate to say that because I was born in the late 1900s in 1970, but it's just something to think about, because everything is going digital and everything will be going AI, and if something happens, someone could literally wipe out the entire history of later mankind. I don't know. Just something to think about. I like how you say the first humanoid. I think you're correct. Yeah, humanoid. Yeah, so if people get confused watching this replay back, a humanoid is basically any living organism. I don't want to say any living organism, but a human structural sort of organism that could easily walk upright. So they have a more spread out pelvis. They're not walking on all fours. Now, we could walk on all fours and walk upright if we want to, just like a gorilla does or an orangutan or something like that. But these were humanoids that did it more often than not. And I believe it was about 7 million years ago that they found that, and it was in Africa, I believe. But after the next Carrington event, yeah, I'm sort of familiar with the Carrington event, but yeah, I would agree. I don't know. It'll all be erased. Literally everything will be erased. Anything that was never put on print and was only on digital will be gone. And if we lose satellite connections, and we lose the power grid, and the phones go down, and computers go down, all of everything that I do on here will be gone. And if you look at history from the beginning of time, I mean, that's what happens, you know. I think it was Caesar the Great or something that destroyed burnt down the library of Alexandria, and all of that history that was in there, all of those scrolls that were in there, everything that the Romans found prior to him, and the knowledge that they learned that was in the Library of Alexandria from Alexander the Great and on, it was lost. Now, it was on print, but imagine the burning of the Library of Alexandria on a level never seen before. That's what it would be if someone completely destroys the internet and AI and everything else. Or if AI destroys it, who knows? But any other civilizations that may come up after ours, or any adaptive human figures that may take over after us, who have adapted through whatever we may go through that might be our demise. I mean, there was like 13 species of humanoid on this planet that we've found so far. Or maybe more. I think there's around 13 or maybe 15, but we're the last ones. Homo sapien. We're the last ones. Us and Neanderthals. And Neanderthals were around for like 40,000 years, and then they just faded out, and nobody knows why. Either they were bred out or just died because they couldn't adapt to the new environment, and they weren't quite as smart as us. So, I don't know, just something weird to think about. Maybe at that moment the aliens will step in, right? Yeah, the aliens will step in. I fully believe in aliens, but any alien life form that has made it here from any of the planets that we have discovered that could have life, depending on their technology, I mean, it could have taken them 75 to 100 years to make it here, or longer. And I mean, just think about this. If we were to travel to the nearest, which I think is, all of a sudden I forgot the name, Kepler, I think it's called Kepler 9 or something like that, or Kepler 6 or something, I think is the closest inhabitable planet. I think that's something like 12 light years away. And to give you a perspective, Voyager 1 and 2 that were launched when I was a kid, like 2, 3, 4 years old, has just now reached 1 light year. Now, it's not on a full propulsion system and all of that stuff, but it's literally just reached 1 light year now. So if you're talking about something that is 12 light years away, with our current technology, you're looking at raising probably 4 or 5 decades, or generations, I should say, of people on a ship before they even reach there? And then if they reach there, is it really going to be inhabitable? And if it's not, and they got to turn around and come back, you're going to have generations and generations of people basically that aren't going to know a thing about Earth other than what they see through the information they get on the ship. So it's just kind of weird. It's just really weird to think about. Those are things that you contemplate after you smoke. And just think, I wonder. I wonder how that would be. Sounds like it's raining now. All right, so anyway, happy Memorial Day to everybody, and let's remember what Memorial Day is about. It's not like a Veterans Day. You don't wish every veteran a happy Memorial Day. I don't really like to call it Happy Memorial Day. However, I don't really know exactly any other way to do it. But Memorial Day is, here in the United States, is basically for those who have fallen in the line of battle, and those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, whether it was from the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, etc., etc. So, yeah, it's pouring down rain, I think, yeah. Which, if it's pouring down rain here, it's pouring down rain at the house, because Kim and I are like 4 minutes from Greg's house here. So anyway, next Saturday the show will be as normal. The last 2 Saturdays I've had to postpone it to Sunday because the one Saturday we went to the air show in Vero Beach, which was amazing. Got to see the Blue Angels fly, and that was really cool. Very hot. And then yesterday we had to go to a wedding that Kim decorated for and did an amazing job for. So yeah, we had to go to that wedding yesterday. Again, really hot. Took a lot out of us yesterday. So went to bed pretty early last night, probably more early than I ever go to bed. So that wasn't a bad thing necessarily. Also, Destination Brews, I'm still pushing it. I created a separate Facebook page for it now, so I'm trying to push that. I spoke to a couple people here in town about carrying my coffee or tea, and then I'm going to talk to a few more. So that's sort of the thing with Destination Brews there, if you know anybody who's into coffee or tea. Now, this isn't, I'm going to preface this. The prices are a little expensive for a couple reasons. One, the tariffs on other countries where my beans are coming from is ridiculous. So my cost for the beans and the roasting is a bit high. And I've cut it down almost as far as I can cut it down with still making a little bit of profit. So I'll just be honest, I'm making about $5 a bag off of it because of the upfront costs from tariffs. And now I got a message from my merchandise people and my roasters and stuff that there's going to be another cost. There's going to be another cost adjustment because of fuel costs and other things. So I'm doing my best to keep it as affordable as possible. However, this is premium coffee from around the world. Like, you can get coffee from Tanzania and Uganda and South America and Africa and, tea from Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia and all of these places. And these are premium single origin coffees. Now, I do have some blends available as well, like a cowboy blend, medium roast. I do have K-cups as well. and my merchandise. I've dropped the cost on a lot of my merchandise compared to what it was originally set at, and still making a decent margin off of it. But now they're talking about a cost adjustment because of the economic climate. So I don't know, I may have to increase them slightly. But anyway, just so you know, that's where we're at with that. This isn't like Folgers or Maxwell House or something like that, or even Black Rifle coffee to an extent, because Black Rifle doesn't really deal in a lot of foreign coffee beans per se. But at any rate, it still comes out to roughly about $2 a cup. So not horrible. So with that, I'll just open it up for general conversation. Anybody got any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that? But next Saturday's show will return to normal. And I am probably going to be expanding the show. I know I've talked about that a few times. However, Facebook, I'm still going to do the Facebook show because, you know, I've been doing it on Facebook for such a long time. But I think I'm actually going to be branching out. I got a new vlogging camera and stuff that I can hook up to my laptop, so I'm kind of fooling with that to see how I can get that situated. And once I figure that out, the show will be transitioning to probably Facebook and YouTube with maybe early week Pint Time or something like that. I'm not sure yet, but you see the incident at the air show recently. Yeah, saw that. And that happened like 2 days after we went to the Vero Beach air show, and that was sad. Like the other pilot that was supposed to catch up with the other plane ended up like right on top of the other one. I'm just glad all four of them ejected and they survived. But yeah, it's no joke up there. I'm telling you, some of the guys that we saw, even in the smaller planes and the acrobatic planes, man, there was this guy there from Australia who was on the Red Bull. At one point, he was on the Red Bull acrobatic flight team and stuff like that. But this guy was such a cool thing, and they would patch in to him on his radio, and just the energy that he gave was just amazing. And Shy got to meet the guy, and I didn't realize that was him when he was signing autographs. Otherwise, I would have went over there and talked with him. But the energy he brought was like amazing. You could see everybody in the crowd just was standing up and clapping, and that guy was just doing some crazy stuff. But yeah, that accident, I think that was like in New Mexico or something. But anyway, yeah, that accident was horrible, and I'm just glad that those four pilots made it out safe. I think one had some minor injuries, but probably banged their arm on the canopy or something flying out. And it's just thankful that they both got out, because those planes were stuck together like this, like right above the canopy. But it was like right when they split, they ejected. They all ejected at the right time. It was perfect as far as like people surviving that incident. But yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. I'm glad that didn't happen when we were watching them. I don't remember ever hearing about an accident with the Blue Angels, but I'd have to look it up. But at least in my lifetime, I don't remember hearing about an accident with the Blue Angels. But then again, I think the pilots that were on those two jets weren't. They were on I think they were on the F-18, the same as the Blue Angels fly, but I don't think they were active military personnel. I'm not sure. But anyway. All right, well, I guess I'm going to get off here and go shoot my TikToks. But thanks, babe, for jumping on, and Jordan, thank you for jumping on too, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad you got the tag and jumped on. I knew it wasn't a Saturday, so But hopefully you can make it on next Saturday too. It's always fun having you on. I'll probably be on Call of Duty later. So if you want to look me up. I don't know what your name is on there though. I've been getting some requests for friends and people invite me to play with them, and I don't really know who these people are. So hopefully one of them isn't you, but I'm sure if it was you, you would have sent me a message. So anyway. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to go ahead and finish these up and do my TikToks and call it a night. So hopefully you guys learned a little something new about American history, and that it's far more than just European history. We had a lot of Native Americans living here that created major metropolises and trading posts and things like that. So, and where this was in Louisiana would have actually been part of the French when they used to own French Louisiana. Used to go all the way up to like Washington. Pretty crazy. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on another episode of Pint Time. I truly appreciate it. And as always, peace, love, and let's continue to experience this beautiful world together. I'll see you next time on Pint Time with Backpacker Mike. Peace.